I need y'all to get serious about what you're doing with your body. Why? Because it has a direct impact on how you show up on the planet. You think this world, or we live in the world, where dad bods and overweight is okay. Listen to me good. I'm not dogging anybody. I'm saying it works against us and causes us to surrender to a whole plan that we had no idea about. And I'm trying to protect you from that impacting you showing up as your true self. All right, let's dive in. So I want to start with a story. I want to start with a personal story, one that's going to help you get an idea of what I'm talking about. In this life, we often have medications, particularly in America. They are propagated, solve this, solve that. You have anxiety, you have depression, you have asthma, all of these things, which may be happening authentically. Well, there was a time where one of my children was dealing with not anxiety, but rather symptoms, things causing them to have not asthma, but what's the word I'm looking for? Tell me, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Not anxiety, but rather the word. I know you're telling me right now, you guys are watching this video thinking he's a nut. Yes, they were having allergies. That's the word I'm looking for. Allergy symptoms that come every season. They're seasonal. Many people experience that. But did you know that a lot of why we experience allergies is because our body hasn't had the proper nutrients to break down our habitual habits of eating that we've maintained for a long time. You see, when we eat foods that are not real foods, this is an easy one, such as McDonald's, we all know that's not actual real food. It's labeled food, but it's not actually nutritious. Those are not the same conversation. And so when you label food as such and we consume large amounts of it, over time, our body begins to break down because that's all we've supplied it. And when that breaking down happens, it impacts all of us differently. Each of us will have different responses because of the foods that we've eaten. That's just what it is. The problem with that is that in many instances, people develop allergies. And even the allergies vary depending on what it is. Some people are allergic to dust, which we probably should be allergic to, but people are allergic to some foods as well. And those things, they begin to impact us. And so what do? Well, in our society, it's natural. We go find the medication and we take the medication, and or we get accustomed to having that particular food and the results that come along with it. Let me give you a very embarrassing example before I tell you about my child. I'm lactose intolerant. Now, when I was married, I remember the symptoms of being lactose intolerant. I'm not going to spell it out. If you can't figure out what I'm talking about, thank you. You know what I'm talking about. I would have those problems. They would bother my stomach, shall we say, but I would continue to do it. And then one day, it just dawned on me. This is extremely physically uncomfortable for my body. This is something I enjoy, in particular with ice cream. Why? What am I going to do here? Am I going to live in a world where this is my experience? Well, I got to be honest with you. I chose not to, because it was extremely uncomfortable for my body, and at times it hurt my stomach, and releasing gas was toxic. I can talk about this because so many of you are still dealing with that right now. You don't have to pretend. I know. And as I looked at my life at that point, I finally grew to a point where I thought, this is uncomfortable. What's the mature choice? Continue to have this ice cream you want, or make an adjustment? You're an adult now. What are you going to do? Well, I chose to let it all go. Now, don't get me wrong. I missed it, etc. I got over it, because that's what we do as adults now. There are things that you just need to let go of. These modern day comforts that we think we're supposed to just have. Friends, at some point, you got to decide who you are is worth shifting some things, including the things you like. It's just part of life. So I decided to let it go. In our modern day society, what many people do is they bring along a lactose pill, or they take Rolaids or Tums or whatever the current modern day medicine is for tummies, because they chose to eat foods that were disrupting their bodies. Now, I'm not angry about that. In fact, on one angle, it's kind of cool, right? You can have what you want, take an anti-acid or antacid pill for it, and you feel better. I got that. See, but there's a downside to that. And that's what I want to spend a minute talking about. The downside to that is that most of us don't realize that we don't show up in this world being authentically who we are because our hormones are unbalanced. What do you mean by that, Marquise? Did you know that when you're over acidic, that your hormones don't operate like they're supposed to? Which means you could be bloated, which no one likes to feel bloated. You could be more moody, and you think it's you, but the reality, it's just the diet that's kept you moody. So you're truly disconnected from who you are. You're trying to be authentic. You think you're being authentic, but none of us are naturally moody. Now, we may be a little more sensitive than other people. That's not the same as being moody in a way that disrupts society or that people can't predict you because you're up, you're down, you're all around. In some instances, we call that ADHD. ADHD, right? You're here, you're there, you're all over the place. A lot of that's related to our food and being over acidic. Yes, the body's going to do what it needs to do to bring balance. But when it does that, it's robbing from our hormones, it's robbing from our joints, it's robbing from our muscle tissues, it's robbing our cells for things that it would naturally be taken care of to bring balance and keep us whole. And all of a sudden, as a result of that, allergies kick in. We have these weaknesses that show up, these little holes, shall we say, that show up in our existence, and now we have to treat those. All because we wanted to take a pill to enjoy something our body's clearly telling us we shouldn't have. Well, I lived that life. I didn't take the pill. I just let it go until this world of vegan ice cream showed up, and I've gotten better. But in many instances, sometimes we don't know that bridge, or like when I was growing up, healthy food was horrible. Like man-made healthy foods that were labeled fat-free, salt-free, they were, when I say horrible, I mean like tasting like chalk. Terrible for you, terrible to you, and no one's tongue wanted to consume it. But when you're trying to be healthy, it was hard, right? So it sucked. But along came good almond milk and things like that, and so now I can have some of those products, and I love it! But I didn't go the path of medicine, and I'm grateful. On the other hand, however, one of my children did have to go the path of medicine for some of her allergies because they were so severe, they would disrupt her sleep. Well, she wasn't willing to change her diet at that time. Actually, let me rephrase that. She was willing, but maybe not as ready. You know, a teenager can be not as ready to kind of give it all up. And that's okay. That's part of her learning. So as a result, she took allergy medicine. And that's fine. She was taking allergy medicine. At some point, mom and her, they had to switch it up and get a different brand. And that's what it is, right? She just kept taking the medicine, and that's okay. Except that something happened. Now, before I tell you what happened, I want to tell you what tends to happen. Let me slide that story to the side. I'm going to come back, I promise. What happens, going back to the anti-acid thing, the Tums thing, is that over time, when we take these medications, we don't realize that they're tearing down the lining in our stomach, in our arteries, and in our body, and that later on, we're going to be stuck needing medication. Hooked, spending our lifelong savings on medication just to try and get by. That's the danger of eating cheap food now. That's the danger of taking on these artificial comforts, which is one of the reasons why comfort food is an oxymoron. Because food shouldn't be bringing you comfort. That means something else is missing in your life. But that's a different story for a different day. One of the things so what I'm wanting you to get an understanding of is taking these medications as a result of this temporary comfort is not the way to go. So it's important that you dive in, because if you haven't read lately, the side effects are horrendous. And that's the thing that most of us miss. We think, oh, it's the fine print, it won't happen to us. Let me tell you, they're real. And then you'll end up having to take another drug for the side effect that this one caused instead of solving the actual issue. I want to encourage you, solve the issue, my friend. Take the time to dig in deep and nurture your body. Let me see what time it is. Yes, take the time to look at the nutrition and nurture your body because you deserve it. And I know you've gotten grown. You're accustomed to some stuff. But to have the right to choose isn't the same as being addicted to something and you not knowing why. So take the time to find out, because it's going to disrupt who you are. And that is a big deal. Now, getting back to that child who I told you started taking allergy medicine because she needed to. Remember those side effects I was just talking about? Well, we didn't read them. All we know is that slowly but surely our child's emotional state began to decline. What I mean by decline is they were more irritable very easily. They were more secluded off to themselves. They would more lash out when they were upset, not talk it through, burst out or cry out of nowhere. And we're like, what's going on with our child? One day her mom called me. Something was going on. I wasn't sure what it was, but I had been listening like, that's not her natural state. And I know that depression, which is what I began seeing, that's not her natural state. What happened to my baby? And this is what we should be doing with our friends as well. What's going on? Their spirit is dampened. They're not showing up like they're supposed to. So I did what I told you we should all be doing. I went and read the label. I said, Mom, I need to know every medication she's taking. She's like, well, she's not really taking any. She's taking this on occasion, which is like Tylenol or something on occasion during cramp period or something, which you don't have to do that either. There's remedies and solutions for that. Comment in the notes. I'll get it to you to ease the pain of menstrual. And then and then of course the allergy medicine. So she read the label to me of allergy medicine, or the name of it. I went to go Google it. Like, what is this medicine? One of the side effects was something I had been seeing, something that had been creeping in the background with this deep, dark depression, this seclusion. And that was side effect, suicidal thoughts, hallucinations. Yeah. And so it was happening to our child. And the only thing I knew to do was immediately, Mom, please get that medicine, throw it in the trash can immediately. We will find her something else. Please, we need our baby back. And this is one of the side effects. The things we've been seeing are present. Skip the allergy. We'll figure that thing out. Get her off this medicine as quickly as possible. And within 2 weeks, you could see her lift, her mood lift. And I'd asked her, are you feeling any different? She's like, yeah, I'm a little bit better, And I'm like, no, baby, you're returning. You're returning. See, being a teenager is one thing, and I know she had her challenges, and she self-critical and really works hard to be perfect because she's a perfectionist. That's part of how she is wired. And really, let's not use the term perfectionist. She's an engineer. They use precision. Like, that's the world in which she thrives in, the way she was brought to this planet. But getting her off the meds and then going to find out what's happening in diet, or finding another med to substitute, but taking the time to pay attention became critical. I need you to do that. I need you to pay attention. How am I showing up? Am I reaching my full potential? Don't just accept this is my natural state. And one of the best ways you can do that is to get in that medicine cabinet, both over the counter and prescribed, read the side effects and go, hey, am I being impacted by this? And once you discover if you are, you obviously want to talk to your doctor. But the other thing you can do, look at the active ingredient. Go find out what foods have that in it and start incorporating that in your diet, and see if over the course of a month, if there's a shift, maybe your doctor can minimize your dosage or take you completely off. I don't know, but I need you to start paying attention so you can show up. I need you to comment, subscribe, share this, please, so that somebody else can expand like you are.